This meeting to order of the Contract Negotiation Committee. And I'm just going to start out, I guess, by asking members here if they have any questions. We have Terry here from the county. Terry Anderson is from the county, so we're going to talk communications today. That was pretty much what we were hoping to focus on. We have retinue from Lakeview and as well as Alina Communications Center. Is that right? So, anything before we get started with communications?
We need that one.
Yes, we do. All right, so let me just kind of recap where I think we're at with communications. I think this is probably from what I can see so far, the toughest issue that we've got to make sure that the communication centers are talking to one another, that it's efficient, and that if there's any time lapse, that it is minimal. And I'm going to leave this open to you guys. Who would like to start? Alina, Lakeview, or the county? Barry? Yeah, please. And, whoa.
Oh.
I didn't see that. You can, whichever you feel most comfortable at. Both mics are working. It's good to have you here, Terry. Thank you so much for coming and helping out.
So how did you want me to do? Do you want me to walk you through how a call is handled today, or?
I think that would be good. I think we just want to make sure everybody's on the same page, everybody has the same understanding of how it works.
So I'll walk you through how we communicate for Hudson Township. That'll be a fair explanation of how it's handled. So the 911 call is received at the 911 center.
Just one second, if you would identify yourself, because we are live here today.
Terry Anderson, I'm the Emergency Communications Manager of St. Croix County.
Thank you.
When a 911 call is received at the 911 center here in St. Croix County, the dispatcher ascertains the level of medical need, proceeds through the emergency medical dispatching protocol, depending on the answers that are provided by the caller. Once they have enough information, they assign it to whichever medical responders are to respond to that specific incident. We'll just say the protocol for Hudson Township is the first responders for Hudson and then Lakeview EMS. At that time, we set pagers off. There's a pager tone for the first responder. There's also a pager tone that we've created for Lakeview. So if they're monitoring, they can capture that and begin responding if they're monitoring the paging channel for St. Croix County. So they get that notification simultaneously. As the first responders do, we notify local law enforcement, and if the dispatchers, if there's a call volume at a level, there's additionally a phone call that's made to Alina right at that same time, alerting Alina for the need for Lakeview EMS. They enter it into their system, and as I understand, at that time they notify the appropriate rig to respond to that medical, and then they respond accordingly. They communicate with us when they go en route. They communicate when they're on scene, and I believe they communicate as well and advise which hospital they're transporting to. If it's an auto accident or if it's a suicidal subject, the law enforcement need to know where they're transporting in case there's any follow-up needed from their side of the incident.
Terry, who are you considering first responders here?
The Hudson first responders in the township, I believe they're, as of right now, yes.
Okay. In the city?
In the city, I know in North Hudson there's first responders that do respond. They're notified in the same fashion as they are in Hudson Township. In the city, there's not necessarily a Hudson first responder tone. We've never been asked to in the city of, but my understanding was a majority of the first responders are St. Croix EMS personnel at this time. And we have not been asked to include that tone within the city limits of Hudson right now for the first responder.
Are the police included? Are the police included in Hudson for first responders?
They're not included on the tone, but every medical within the city of Hudson, they're notified as well, because normally they'll be the first ones there to respond, no matter if it's somebody that's a general medical or a pulseless non-breather. They have the AEDs in the squad cars to respond.
So how do they get notified through the,
Via the radio.
Okay.
They're right in the scheme, right after the page. Law enforcement's notified of the medical that's ongoing in the city. And then that way there as well, they're notified of any emergency vehicle operating within the city limits.
okay.
You said another tone was sent out to the town of Hudson for Lakeview. Is that on the same channel?
It's on the same channel, correct. It's on St. Croix County paging.
Gotcha,
All of our paging is done off of that one frequency.
gotcha. So it's not a separate tone, it's the same tone?
It's a separate tone, because each department, Hudson Fire,
right.
Hudson EMS, the Hudson First Responder, they all have a unique tone to set off pagers, but it's all done on one channel, so they
Sure.
can all scan it, all listen. And we created the Lakeview one, so if they were able to monitor or listen, they could, but all Lakeview is responding to the incident.
Gotcha.
I think one of the issues has been is that based on the data that there's a frequently significant lag between the tone out and the phone call. Based on when a liner is, from the data that I've seen, when the liner receives the call as opposed to when the original page went out from when you sent the page out. There's sometimes 1 to 4 minutes lag.
Well, one thing you have to remember is we're notifying, there's a process of notifying the responders. We have to notify the local EMS, in this case the first responders that are responding. They're the closest, quickest, then it's the law enforcement, and then it'll be the phone call going to Alina to notify Lakeview via that route.
Yeah.
It all takes a process of time to go through all of them steps. It'll take 45 seconds to a minute to have the discussion with the Alina dispatcher to give them the vital information that they need
Right.
to get there and,
Yeah, I'm not finding fault. I just said, just
yeah,
build that piece. And I think for me, that's the big piece that I can identify that I'm concerned about. So
Yeah. It-
what
yep.
causes that and
understood.
solutions, I guess that's probably what we're looking for.
Yeah. So right now, when we page out the EMS, the tones go for the first responder and for EMS. It'll take anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds on a normal call for us to deliver that message. Most of the time, a good percentage of the time, the 911 call taker is still on the phone with the person going through the EMD protocol. At that time, they'll notify law enforcement of the incident because they're the next closest. And they'll take, an additional 10 seconds. And then there's the phone call that has to be made to Alina, which again will take roughly about 45 seconds to relay that information.
Yeah.
So it unfortunately does add up the time, but our goal is to try to get the closest people there first that can render the aid the quickest, if at all possible. I know it seems like it takes an amount of time. It's just the nature of the beast having to go through all them steps to get there.
Yeah, but the first thing that goes out is the tone to the whatever ambulance service it is.
Correct.
And the first responders, wherever they are.
Correct. Yep, that's our priority, is to get them notified throughout the county. I shouldn't say most, there's several agencies that have on-call crews that are stationed at the station or in the vehicles. So the policy is to notify them first, allow them time to get going. It takes roughly about a minute for crews that are ready to go. And there's other agencies in the county that are volunteer at home or at their place of work where they have to leave work or leave their home and get to the station.
So Terry, just so I'm clear, the steps would be first responders and EMS would be toned first?
They're toned identically at the same time. A
Right.
tone goes for both of them to turn on their pager, so to speak, or alert them via radio. The same message is given at the same time.
So like in town of Hudson, Lakeview would be on that first tone?
That is correct.
And then law enforcement would be second,
Law enforcement second.
and then the ambulance, the call to Alina would be third.
It's in that step, yes.
But Lakeview would already know by the first tone.
We broadcast it on our paging channel, correct?
Okay, so there wouldn't necessarily have to be a delay if Lakeview took it from the first tone instead of taking it from Alina? Is that correct?
That's been our goal all along, is to have it that way. We're broadcasting it now in hopes that if Lakeview is monitoring, that they can receive that information at that time.
Okay.
So if we've got two different entities that we're talking about, you're talking about how the town of Hudson is working as well as how the city is working. And so let's just say the call comes in the city.
The call shouldn't be handled any different. It should be the exact step process of alerting the responding agencies.
But it's going to be St. Croix EMS alerted first,
You are correct.
where out at the town, it's going to be Lakeview alerted first.
Correct.
right? Okay.
But
so-
it's in essence the same way. The tones, if there's first responders, there's tones, and then one message given to both of them at the same time.
okay.
Okay.
So the, I don't know, we've been at this for so long, Terry. So if St. Croix EMS can't respond, is the concern here the lag time between?
Yeah, my concern is between the first, second, and third step, where my understanding is, on the third step, you would call Alina, and then Alina would dispatch Lakeview.
I believe so, yes.
And we can talk to you guys.
You're
to get
saying
it
if
right.
they weren't able to respond in Hudson here? I just
No,
want to make
what-
sure I understand correct.
The concern is that we would like, in the step one where it's first responders and EMS toned, the concern is that that should get whatever ambulance service moving. We shouldn't have to wait till step three to get Alina to get them moving, because then we've given up those 1.5 to 2.5 minutes or whatever that is. So we want to, that's the concern, I think, is right. We want to get it from the get-go out of the chute on step one rather than wait till step three. That's the way I understand it.
To get wheels moving.
To get ambulances in motion, yeah. Does that sound accurate?
Our goal is to get the closest EMS provider to them the quickest as possible,
Yeah.
because second saves lives.
Yep.
So help me with this, Terry. If a call comes in, you put a tone out to, you put a tone out and they're all notified at the same time?
Correct.
And so if Lakeview receives their tone, would there be direct communication with Lakeview instead of Alina? Or do you have to then go to Alina and,
The assumption has been if we notify them, if they receive our transmission on a page or via the radio, that they would, either relay that to Alina and advise them of the situation so they could start tracking on their side of the system. Then they'll communicate with us. Right now, when Alina is notified of the situation, they'll notify the appropriate rig that needs to respond to that incident. They'll have communication with Alina. They're their mothership. I don't know how to describe that, but they're their main dispatch center. We're the secondary one that they have to deal with within St. Croix County. When they notify Alina that they're en route, whether they do it via MDC or over the air on the radio, they'll radio to us and advise us they're en route as well, making sure we understand that they have a truck en route, whichever truck unit it is.
You said that once you page them out, that the dispatcher may still be on the phone with the party that's called in, gathering more information, is that?
Yes, it depends on the type of medical. They could, the different medical, depending on what it is, they could go through the process, the protocol, and end the conversation with that caller if they're comfortable, if there's no need for it, if it's a low-level emergency. If it's a higher grade emergency where we need to maintain connection with that caller or the family member, whoever's having the medical emergency, or if it's a CPR type of incident where we're given directions on how to administer CPR, we maintain connectivity with that person or with whoever's with that person until medical arrives or the first responder is there.
Okay.
whether it's law enforcement or first responder.
It's based on this, the protocol.
Correct.
It's a national protocol, is it not?
Correct. It's the same one Alina uses as well.
So from the caller's perspective, you're staying on the line as St. Croix County Dispatch.
Correct.
They're never having contact directly with Alina, like the call is never transferred because it's still a St. Croix County.
Correct. It's in our county. If it's a suicidal type thing or if it's a call that's unique, law enforcement has to be involved in some way or form. So at that time, it becomes a safety factor to be able to provide them information. When we call Alina, we are providing them the actual full determinant code, the type of medical call it is, the level of response that's needed, and Alina will relay that to the Lakeview staff.
Any direct communication between St. Croix County Dispatch and the personnel in the truck? Or is Alina the one?
Primarily, the only time we have contact with Alina is for the initial notification. At that point, it should be my staff communicating to the Lakeview truck that's en route to that incident, so there's not a loss of information. It's person-to-person, direct information. Any information that they need is provided to them for their safety and whatever the medical is they're responding to.
And that's the way it's happening currently today in
yes.
town of Hudson?
Yep.
So, if I'm hearing this right, and forgive me because I can be a real slow study. There could be a truck that's underway before you actually make a call to Alina?
There could be, it all depends on the gap between when we page and when we get through with the call. This morning there was a call, and it was, I believe, about 40 seconds when my staff hung up with Alina. The Lakeview 802 went en route. I believe it was a medical or an accident in Hudson Township this morning, but it was a short time. It was less than a minute. There was a Lakeview truck en route to the incident.
Okay.
Highway, County A.
So, do you have a question, Jim?
No, I said that was up on County A, I think, this morning.
Yes.
Yeah, saw that.
If the call is from the city of Hudson, EMS is the first call, but if I'm hearing you correctly, Lakeview is going to be mutual aid at that point. So when they're toned out, Lakeview is hearing that at the same time that you're calling St. Croix EMS?
You would mention mutual aid. I guess you lost me for a second.
Well, if it's a call within the city,
Okay.
which is what we're most concerned about right now.
In the future, should it happen, is what you're saying?
Currently.
Currently. Okay.
Currently.
Yep.
They're not both toned out at the same time, are they?
If it's a call where St. Croix EMS is the only EMS needed, we'll page them and they'll handle the incident or call and advise to notify Lakeview or whomever they need as mutual aid.
And then, so if they say that if they're out, they're not able to make that call, they tell you that, and then you call Lakeview?
We would notify Lakeview at that time, correct?
Okay.
Just as we would for any other agency within
Sure.
St. Croix County.
Yeah. All right. So what we've seen, we have seen some data here that I think raised a lot of people's eyebrows about a lag time that, if I'm correct, it was like on an average of 3 minutes. Is that right?
It varies, yeah.
And that would be, I think we're talking about mutual aid, right?
No, because this is town of Hudson, January.
I can clarify that. John Muller, Lakeview EMS manager. Just to clarify, I think what you're referring to, the data that you guys were looking at was the data that we were presenting to the town of Hudson.
Right.
On our response times. And the question came up, and I think maybe Jim had brought it up. The request was they wanted to see when the 911 center, when Alina received the call. But we also showed the data when the call came into the 911 center.
Right.
And it was that delay. And the thing that we explained at the time, we don't know what the situation is in the dispatch center. They have certain procedures and information they have to get before they can put the call out. And sometimes it may start out as a non-medical situation. It could be send police to do an evaluation. So there could be lag times of 20 minutes, police get there, see it, determine that it's a medical. So that's one scenario. The other scenario was what Terry explained, the process that they're using in the dispatch center to go through and eventually get to calling Alina. So those are the delays, and 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes is probably what we're seeing on average in the town of Hudson since January 1st.
All right, but that's all calls, so that's non-emergent and emergent.
That's all calls, yeah.
So let's focus on emergent calls then.
So one thing I'll add as well in our EMD protocols, we have to assess we call it our ring to ding is how we determine our report, that we have to report to our medical director, and our average is 1 minute and 30 seconds. Because from the time we receive the call until we ding the pager, it's our ring to ding. And it's 1 minute and 30 seconds is our average, that's within the national average of notification.
A good function of that is that conversation that you're having with the person that's
Correct, we
calling.
have to verify the location, who we're speaking to, a contact phone number, and then exactly what's going on. Some callers, it's to the point, you know what the medical is. Other ones you're trying to decipher if it's a non-emergent response, if it's an emergent response, trying to ascertain exactly what's going on, and sometimes it takes a few questions to draw out of them what their situation is.
All right, so what is the additional lag time? Is there, that's presuming, but is there additional lag time then in the way that you're handling the calls right now? You get on the telephone. We're talking about Lakeview now, town of Hudson. So
Okay.
an emergent call comes in, takes you on average about 1.5 minutes to get all of your information and then to ding Lakeview.
It's 1.5 minutes to determine on who is responding or who is.
Okay.
So at that point, the first responders are getting paged, the Lakeview tone is going, law enforcement's being notified, and that's when that clock starts. We have to go through that process. If you're saying it's 3 or 4 minutes, that's how it ends up from 1 minute and 30, another 90 seconds, and you're at 3-4 minutes when we're calling Lakeview, or calling Alina, I should say. It takes that amount of time to get to that process.
Okay, so again, I want to focus on emergent calls, lights and siren. Do you see that there is an additional lag time because of the way that you are equipped right now to contact Alina with the telephone?
Yes, we could shave time off if there was that direct connection. If there were,
How much time do you think?
it'd probably save 1.5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes.
That long for a phone call?
They'd be notified right at the get-go when everybody else is notified if
Okay.
it was done how I would like it to be done.
I'd like to have that conversation. All right, so I guess we're saying then that there is added time because of the method that you're using to contact Alina.
The current method that has to be used, correct.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Now, the question, I guess.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
just following up on that, then whose requirement is that? Is that Lakeview's requirement that you contact Alina?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's Lakeview, it's more of Alina's where it's, the issue, I guess you could say, is where it's at right now. We asked for a certain way of having connectivity. We were told that that's not a viable option at this time. So that's when we advised them we were going to include a pager, a tone. So if they wanted to listen and monitor, they could. That option's out there. I don't know per se if they are listening actively or however, but we're providing that tone if they're willing to listen to capture that and accept that and respond, or if they wait for the Alina phone call to come and get dispatched, that's on them. But we always follow up. We provide the tone just like we would anybody else if they were within the county, and we follow up with the phone call to make sure it's properly given to them and that they have the information they need for their system.
Terry, what was it that you, what was it that you asked, excuse me, what was it that you asked Alina for that?
At
they-
that time,
Denied or? they-
yeah. Well, we asked to have connectivity directly on a 800 talk group, an Armor System channel, to talk directly to Alina. Our original discussion was to have the tone go across that talk group specifically from St. Croix County to Alina, and that their comm center would capture that information just like they would on a pager.
Okay. And did they provide a reason for not wanting to do it?
They did. The answer I was given is they were afraid that they would miss it with the activity level that they have over there.
Okay.
We had some brief discussions about, if the goal was if we would provide that information, Alana would answer back and advise St. Croix County that they copied the information. But through that discussion and how they described their situation over there, that wasn't an option.
Okay.
I mean, describe a scenario and see if I've got this right. Say 2 in the morning, there's a big accident on I-94.
Okay.
And you get the first call, and then you get the second call and the fourth call, and it is people streaming by with their cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect you get a lot of calls about accidents. Is that, those incoming 911 calls, is that going to take priority over being able to make that call to, is that going to interfere with your process, I guess? Is that going to, that workload going to slow you down in your
Yeah.
ability to
If there's
communicate?
multiple calls coming from the same incident, if we have to set off pagers for an accident with injuries, one of the dispatchers will take and start that process. If there's additional calls coming in, the other dispatchers are handling them calls, they're prioritizing. If there's other things going on in the county.
And they can see that on, probably on their screens, can they see?
Yes,
They
yep,
see
they
what's
have
going
a
on?
running screen, they can see all the incidents right now. Honestly, in the afternoon, the normal is mid-teens to 20s of active incidents at one time going on in the county. But they're prioritizing and taking care of what is needed at each time. If it's a non-urgent type call, that can go on hold for a few minutes or until there's someone available to handle that. They prioritize the emergent type calls and handle them so they can get immediate attention.
Okay, so that's not on an emergent call, that's not going to pull the dispatcher away from being able to notify Alina? I guess I'm looking for the gaps. Where,
Yeah, if there's been a few instances, during storms or big calls, volume coming in on an incident, the one dispatcher will have to take and go through, they'll handle the 911 call at the time of the assign, going through the protocol where it says to assign when they get the full determinant code to be able to tell the responding EMS folks. They will notify the county level, they'll notify law enforcement, and then they'll call Alina and notify them of the incident, and then finish out going through the protocol with the person, if one person has to handle it.
So what's the ideal situation for you?
Well, if I could handle it the way I wanted to, it'd be pagers. I know John, his crew don't like that necessarily because it hampers their system. Ideally, it'd be a system where we could have direct communication with the Lakeview for notification and/or to Alina directly, so they could copy the information, a one-stop shop, so they're notified immediately just as everybody else is within our county.
You talked a little bit about the Alina dispatch piece that's happening in the town of Hudson currently with Lakeview. Could you contrast that with the communications that's happening currently from the St. Croix EMS side? So you're not making that phone call to,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
What are you doing now today in the city of Hudson?
Today, currently in the city of Hudson, when we receive a request for a medical 911 call, we set the pagers off. Hudson EMS gets notified in the city of Hudson. Law enforcement is notified via radio. When we finish out the 911 call, while the responders are responding to the incident, we're updating them if there's more information that needs to be relayed.
There's no need to reach out to St. Croix EMS to dispatch them. In other words, they're dispatched earlier on in the process?
When we set their pagers off, they're notified.
Right,
We give them the information they need. They come on the radio and advise, paid received if they've got to wait for any crew, but if they're going en route, they notify us they're en route to that incident.
gotcha. And again, that's kind of that first responder type of piece.
Whether it's the transport truck, whether it's the chase vehicle, the medic going directly en route, or if there's a first responder in the city of Hudson responding to the incident.
Got it.
What is the 911 protocol? So any call from, I presume St. Croix County, right? 911 goes to your communications center. Is that right?
Correct. All
So-
911s within St. Croix County go through our center.
So is there a way to, in order to speed that process up, is there a way for the 911 call to go directly to Alina?
Well, if you're asking if we would route any medicals over there for anybody or just Hudson?
No, I'm not even talking about St. Croix County routing it. I'm talking about a 911 call to going for the city of Hudson, for the service area, to go directly to Alina instead of the St. Croix County dispatch.
I would say no,
And why?
because it goes back to the law enforcement involvement. If there's any sort of a threat to officers, or if that person is threatening in any way or manner, or suicidal, or somebody having a mental health crisis, I would want to be involved for law enforcement to have that direct connection for their safety of responding, whether it's weapons involved, because weapon can be any form. It can't, just because it's not a gun, any sort of a object can be used as a weapon, so we have to have that direct connection to make sure the person or persons are within a resident. If they're out on the street running down the sidewalk, we have to have that information to relay to the responding law enforcement. It's control of the 911 call overall.
I'm just curious about boundaries. So, I mean, if I'm in Pierce County, I live in Hudson, I'm in Pierce County, and I call 911, where does that 911 call go?
Yeah, if you're within Pierce County, you go to the Pierce County Sheriff's Office.
But I don't know that. I'm on my cell phone. I just hit 911. Where does that call go to?
Yeah, the cell phones are different. Every cell phone tower has arrays on them pointed to, northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast, depends on the number of arrays. And the cell provider, when they set them up, they route it through us, and we can tell them, a certain cell tower, should that come to us? Should that go to Pierce County? Should that go to Wisconsin State Patrol? Should that go to Minnesota State Patrol? It all depends on the location of that tower and what direction that antenna is pointing. The majority of them calls, who are they going to be the most, who's going to help them the most?
So that's just something that's done.
That's done at the
Electronically, yeah.
Yep, that's done at the creation of the cell tower, and then it's pointed at that specific 911 center.
Okay.
We always transfer to other centers along I-94, whether it's Eau Claire for Wisconsin State Patrol, Minnesota State Patrol, anything along the St. Croix River, if it's Washington County, we'll transfer over there. Anything along the Pierce side, if we get anything out of River Falls, we'll send down to Pierce County. Same with Polk County as well, Dunn County as well. They do the same for us. If it's something within our jurisdiction, they'll transfer a call to us as well.
Okay. I was just curious. I don't know how all that works.
Yeah.
So, and then hard lines, hard connected telephones?
Any of the wireline phones come directly to our 911.
That's something that happens, again, electronically, the way the phone system is set up in, say, Croix County, that they're
Yeah,
automatically.
depending on where that phone is registered as a geo address, it's routed depending on that geo address.
Okay. All right. I'd like to get,
One more quick question. How frequently an EMS unit is en route? How frequently do you have additional information that's important to relay them, or is that half the time, 10% of the time?
I'd say probably 30% of the time's a good number. I don't know the exact,
Yeah.
but I'd say probably 30% of the time, there's additional information that we can provide. You know, my staff, if they're having a hard time getting the information out of the caller of what is going on medically, I've told them to kind of wait because they're so used to paging fast. But if at the 30-second mark, if they're going through the protocol and they can't really get a determination on what is going on or the full determinant code, they'll just page the responsible EMS agency, but they might not have that full determinant code. They haven't progressed all the way through that protocol yet to get the exact 17 Delta 1 determinant code. They know it's a person that fell, but they don't know all the particulars. They haven't got that far down in the weeds in the protocol, so they'll get them going and then they'll relay the additional information once they're en route.
Okay. How does that work with Lakeview through Alina for the town of Hudson?
Again, the initial call, the request for them goes to Alina. Any further additional information, and we've talked with both John and Matt from Lakeview, and they agree that any additional information goes directly to the truck responding to that incident over the radio. That's been working all good.
So during our discussions, it had been brought up that Lakeview thought, and Alina, and I may have this wrong, but this is what I thought I heard, thought that there was some type of software patch, for lack of a better term, that could be provided to enhance communication between Alina, Lakeview, and St. Croix Dispatch.
Yeah.
I've heard that that may not actually be correct. I think that came from Steve. So any thoughts on that?
Yes, as I stated, the EMD protocols both Alina and St. Croix County use are the same. They're interchangeable. The CAD systems and computer-aided dispatch programs, the software, we are totally different right now. The system that we have is older. It's used countywide for all fire, EMS, and police. The current system we have right now does not interface with the TriTech Inform that Alina is currently using. It's been slated to purchase a newer system by the county down the road in 2021, 2022 in that area. But we're proceeding through that process now of trying to gather up what all information. Our CAD, when I say our CAD, the county's CAD system for the 911 center is just one part of the big system. There's all kinds of other modules, if you will. There's a records management system for all the law enforcement. There's the jail. There's evidence for all the PDs. All the PDs are included in this except for 2 that are involved. I'm just a little spoke on the wheel, if you will, of this big overall package. So I have to work with all the additional agencies on that package as well. But the goal is to bring all the fire and EMS agencies into the umbrella of this. They'll have the MDCs, the computers in the actual vehicles if they so choose. They can share information, whether it be floor plans, maps, any other information they wish to share, but that'll all be together for all of them to use. That's the goal of the future.
Will that system be able to communicate with the Alina type system?
That all depends upon how the county lands when the date comes on which system we go with. That's one of the things we have to take into consideration, is being able to share that information with an Alina or somebody of that nature. Yeah.
Everybody around us.
Yeah, it all depends on their interface. There's a lot of different softwares out there. Some of them play nice together, other ones don't, just like your computers at home.
So you're saying even if there was an update in 2021 or 2022, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that that would be like compatible with the CAD system from that?
Yeah, it's not a guarantee at this point. Like I said, it's one of the considerations that we have to consider, but I can't guarantee that today.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, can you hang out here for a little while yet, Terry? Thank you very much, appreciate it. Nate, John,
Nathan Polster, Lakeview VP. I think at this time I'd call John up here to talk a little bit about the operational side of the dispatch. Bjorn's also prepared to inject on that as well. So we've also invited Alina to listen to our conversation today, so some questions may be relevant for them as well. So.
First of all, I want to just talk about the
identify yourself again.
Oh,
please,
John Muller, Lakeview EMS. Our process for dispatching. So again, when you operate a system that's not a static system in one location, a paging system probably works okay. But the pagers are eventually going to go away someday. I mean, that's technology that's very dated. We discontinued with pagers over 10 years ago, and we advanced. The pagers primarily were set up years ago for the volunteer type services, the people that are at home working in their yard, the days before there were cell phones. That's what the pagers were for. So that these volunteers would still get the call and know to respond to the station to go on the call. Again, with our operation, we span a large area. We cover we operate in 3 different counties. At one time, all 3 counties were on different radio systems. And the only way that we could continue to operate as efficiently as we do today is to merge all of our communications into one center that could handle everything. And at the time, Alina was the only company out there that did EMS dispatching and had the most state-of-the-art dispatch center. So we met with Alina, they agreed to do that. This occurs throughout the United States, this type of dispatching. Most of your larger, high-profile or high-performance EMS systems have their own dispatch center. In this state, there's hundreds of secondary dispatch centers called a secondary PSAP that centralize all the EMS dispatching. Examples of that nearby would be La Crosse, Wisconsin. La Crosse, Wisconsin operates out of La Crosse in La Crosse County, but they also respond into Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. They do 20,000 calls a year. Every call comes from the primary PSAP into their secondary PSAP. Again, everything is centralized, so all of the EMS operations are run through one center. Again, that's the only way you could efficiently do that. The technology that we have in our system, and I want to let Angie talk about that here in a minute. I'm just giving you kind of an overview of why we did what we did and why we continue to do it. The technology we have is instantly, the minute that our crews receive the call, in their CAD system that's in the ambulance, that's what Terry talked about, eventually the county will get to that level. They're not at that level. We've been at that level since we started with Alina.
John, if I could
Yep.
interrupt, hold that thought, but I want to talk like La Crosse, all right,
Yeah.
or any of these other areas. So how do they deal with the police and other emergency type situations?
It's not an issue with them. So in La Crosse, Dr. Peterson and I both talked to different people in La Crosse and in other places in the state, but it's all just the EMS side of it. And the difference that they're doing in La Crosse is everything is CAD to CAD communication. And that's the technology that's coming. The future of this dispatching technology, eventually all systems will be able to communicate with each other. And I know Terry said their system's a little bit older, and we asked him before the meeting if it's possible to do that. He doesn't think it is with their system.
To do what?
To do CAD to CAD, to send the data, push the data. We have some other solutions we'll talk about here in a minute that we think would alleviate that. Well, we know it would alleviate it. So in La Crosse, the primary PSAP receives the 911 call. The dispatcher doesn't have to do anything. The minute they type that in as a medical, it automatically pushes the data right into the, is it Gunderson Hospital? Gunderson Hospital does their secondary PSAP. It goes right into Gunderson Hospital, and they page out the ambulance for it. During that process, the 911 caller at the primary PSAP is still on the phone with the person calling 911, but the ambulance is already en route. They don't have to do anything. That's the future. It's out there today. Angie can talk a little bit about what they're doing in some of their areas. But the other information that we're receiving, again, when that call is pushed to our CAD, that's the minute our crews get notified, the map, everything, the location of the call is mapped in their computer. They go out, turn the truck on, right there on the computer. That's where I need to go. It routes you right to the call. In the old days, it was a map book. Open a map book up, find the address. How are we going to get there? This alleviates all that. At 3 in the morning when you're trying to wake up and figure out what's going on, that's all done for them. All the information is going into the CAD. That's information that they don't have to put into their chart as they're going to the scene. All of that stuff gets pushed right into their ambulance report. Those are all things that all these crews have to do on their way to the call. So the technology makes it a lot safer for us to respond, and it's all right there as we go through it. So that's the reason we do that. The other piece of that is they're managing all of our trucks continuous, 24/7, 365. They know what every truck is doing. Every truck has an AVL system on it. They see it on a map. They know where they're at. They can send the closest truck to the closest call. The technology that they have actually measures traffic levels, live traffic levels. So one ambulance may be closer geographically, but the technology says, no, because of the traffic issues, this one's going to get there quicker. This is all new stuff that Terry's talking about the county wants to eventually get to. That's what we're on today, a system, very sophisticated system. I'll leave it at that.
Angie Fox, and I'm with Alina Health EMS Communications Center, and I'm the manager there. I don't know, do you want me to speak to a little bit of what John was speaking to about the technology that we have, or do you want to ask me some questions?
Why don't you start with just speaking to what John had to say and anything that Terry may have had to say up to this point.
Okay, so I'll tag on to John a little bit as far as the mapping software that we talk about is actually, if you guys are familiar with Waze, if you have a Waze app on your phone, we use Pulse software, so it's real life traffic data that comes in. I used it on my way here today from St. Paul to say what's the closest, fastest route I should take to a call. It updates every couple of seconds, so if there's a slowdown that happens on a freeway, it'll reroute the crew to tell them to go a different route than they currently would do, that you normally would do, that you think every day I'm going to take to the store, right? It's going to tell you because of an accident that happened, here's a different route that I should take to that call based on the real-time data that's coming in. We've seen great improvements in our response times at Alina and Lakeview and other places we dispatch for because of that technology. So that's what I would say. Is there any questions about Pulse or the Waze app that we use?
No.
Okay. As far as anything that we've talked about as far as us being asked to have a pager in our communication center, how we intake calls right now is a secondary PSAP. That's the only dispatching we do is we are a secondary PSAP. We dispatch EMS only. We do no police, no fire, EMS only. So we wait for any calls that come to us as a secondary PSAP once a primary dispatch center determines that it is a medical emergency. When they determine it's a medical emergency in some of the areas we dispatch for, then that is when we receive the call. So we don't ever get the police and fire that Terry's going to get. They filter that for us and give us medicals only. So then our call comes into our center. We have a call taker that answers all of our phone calls. They're trained at that level, and they are inputting all the information into the CAD, the computer-aided dispatch, which is TriTech. They put that call information in there, and as they're entering a call, as a call taker, we have a different standard that we follow. 90% of the time we are taking a call within 30 seconds, and we then give it to our dispatcher. It pops up on that CAD, and they are dispatching the call at the time that I may still be talking to St. Croix County or any other county that I'm working with at that time. So that call is automatically dispatched at that time. So a call taker intakes the calls, and a dispatcher is only doing radio communication with the crews, dispatching them calls and also moving their locations. Because if we have a call that comes in one area, we're going to move a truck to a different area to cover the area better. So we have two different functions in our center on what people are doing.
Okay.
Any
So
questions?
all calls from Washington County, from Ramsey County come in via cell phone? They're all calls, or are they coming through the CAD?
So they're so different. So we have CAD to CAD with some areas. So the airport we have a CAD to CAD with. So what they do is they put in, and Dakota County as well. They put in their address. They put in 123 Main Street, and patients having chest pain, it automatically sends to our CAD. That is the CAD to CAD connection. As soon as you enter a patient condition code, they tab off of it. It comes right into our CAD system. And then we're in the process right now, within the next 30 days or so, we'll also be going live with Anoka County and Ramsey County in the CAD to CAD aspect of that as well. Where again, they automatically will send the call to us once they put that information in there. You can have it that you either a dispatcher in the primary can hit a button that's gonna be a manual send, or it could automatically happen that once they put a patient condition code in, that it's an automatic send. It depends how you set your CAD up.
How many different municipalities do you cover?
So we have 130 communities that we dispatch for. We have 24 counties that we deal with.
24 counties? So, and are they all on the same CAD system?
Nope. Anybody we have a CAD to CAD with is on the same TriTech CAD system.
Has anybody had to change their CAD system?
Not had to. They chose to.
You've never, but have you had any connectivity issues with CAD systems that would require a change?
We haven't had any issues, no.
Okay.
What's the call volume, Angie? Like Ramsey County or Anoka County that's coming into your center?
Okay.
you know?
So with Alina that we dispatch for, and then with our affiliates, which we consider Lakeview an affiliate, CentraCare, Detroit Lakes, other ones that aren't Alina, we dispatch for alone. We do about 450 ambulance dispatches a day.
So how would you see this connecting with St. Croix County? How would that work? How would a call go if everything worked well?
That they would receive the call as they do today, determine that it's a medical emergency. When they determine it's a medical emergency, they would call us via the phone and give it to our call taker with the address and the problem nature.
Okay. Terry, do we have any type of CAD yet at the county?
Do we have a CAD?
Yeah.
Yes, we have a CAD.
Okay, and is that the patch that I heard about, that you might be able to patch and connect with St. Croix County and make it work?
Well, so they're on an older CAD. So TriTech is our CAD vendor that actually purchased a CAD that they operate on, and I'm not sure how old it is. But he doesn't believe that because it's an older version, that tunnel, that interface would actually connect up. That we could actually just do that tunnel because they're not on the actual TriTech CAD system. They're on a purchased system.
Is it a fix or is it a complete replacement?
I believe it's a complete replacement, but I'm not 100% sure of that. I don't know that we've ever asked TriTech, would you be able to do an interface with a version as old as theirs is?
Peterson. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask Terry again, too. You should probably get on a mic here, Terry. So, and I know that you had said that that the county is looking at an upgrade. Any idea on the cost on that?
The preliminary numbers we're getting are anywhere from 1 to 1.5 million for the total CAD upgrade, and that includes the modules. It's a whole package deal. I'm just a small module of that, but that's the cost of the entire package to do that.
Okay.
And currently, if we could currently, yeah, we'd look at sharing, pushing information. That's the best, but currently, we're unable to.
So, but you're just a small portion of the fix? Is that what you said?
For that 1 to 1.5 million dollar package for the CAD is just a module in the several modules that are needed for that dollar amount.
Is there a way to isolate that module and make it work?
The CAD interfaces with the other modules in our system within the county, with the records management system on the law enforcement side, the fire side that we're trying to encompass into that whole program as well. It'd be nice if I could just say, yeah, I want a CAD and I want to do that, but they all have to interface with all these other modules and communicate.
Sure. Okay.
Mr.
Thanks.
Mayor, if I may.
Bjorn?
Bjorn Peterson, Medical Director for Lakeview Ambulance. So we've discussed some options, and that is not necessarily the only software option that's available. There is another type of program, specifically it's called I Am Responding, that's used in St. Croix County that takes information from the CAD, pushes it out to a cell phone app that can be carried by first responders to alert them of the call, in addition to the pager, and then there's reply buttons that can be made too. So we would like to explore using I Am Responding to send the initial call information to Alina at the time of the call being toned out, which is when that page would typically send, and then Alina could take that information, put it into their CAD. Very similar in time frame to what the CAD to CAD interface would provide.
Sure. I think Terry's got something to say about that.
We currently use that for all the fire and EMS agencies within St. Croix County. My only word of caution is, as you indicated, the cell phone is where it comes. It can come text or email. The cell phones, we tell the agencies that it is not your first line of notification, not to be used, because you're at the whim of the cell phone provider. I'm not on Richmond Fire, but I have it on my phone connected so I can make sure it's functioning appropriately. There's sometimes up to a 45-minute delay in getting that notification. It's not 100% like any other program you rely on with the cell phone. So we caution our agencies to not use that as a primary notification. That's my only, it is a stopgap to help with that. I agree 100% on that, but you have to be cautious of that aspect of it. It's not 100%.
So, and that's just a regular cell phone then? That's,
Well, yeah, so it would be, cell phone is one, push notification to a cell phone. It could send a text message, an email. That we'd work out what the best way is, whether it's an email or, some device in the Alina Dispatch Center that would receive that message. But yes, absolutely, as far as the primary alerting, this would still require that phone call as the definitive primary alerting. It's just that the secondary alerting would come first.
don't we have the same issue though if it's a phone?
So the page from I Am Responding would come out whenever the tones are set off. So that first step in the county dispatch process, in addition to sending out the tones over the radio, would also send this page via like a push notification email. What we're saying though is since that can't be relied upon 100% of the time, it's highly reliable but not 100% reliable, that there would still have to be a follow-up phone call in step 3, as there currently is, just to confirm that Alina received that notification and that the page was sent out to the crews.
Okay, and that would happen no matter what. There would always be that confirming phone call.
Yeah, whatever the workflow ends up being. If there's a different way to confirm it so they don't have to do the phone call, that's a possibility too, but there would have to be that phone call built in as the primary backup method to make sure that that call gets transmitted correctly.
Okay.
Right, and again, until the CAD system is up and running, or the new CAD system, the interface, if that's where this is going.
Can I speak a little bit more to I am responding? And again, we would still want that phone call, right? Because that's how we want to make sure that we always get those calls. I think that with using I am responding, that would help us if there is a delay for some reason on St. Croix County side, because they get busy, there's a lot going on, and there's a 3-minute delay. If we can get that right away at the beginning, then we can already be entering that call in our CAD and getting it out to Lakeview and dispatching them, and they would just confirm that we got it. So I think we would stop that. We are currently using, in our dispatch center, I am responding for one agency that we dispatch for, which is in Sherburne County for Elk River Ambulance. They use it for their first responders. They're the kind that respond from home. So we just watch it to make sure that we actually have first responders that are going with our paramedic in Elk River. So it is technology that we are using today.
Help me understand the difference between that and pager. So you're thinking the way to go, Terry, is pagers.
Predominantly in St. Croix County, that's how we communicate for the initial notification of all fire and EMS agencies within St. Croix County. They also, all of them, as a matter of fact, have the I am responding app for their agencies as well. The one, again,
All do.
they all do.
Okay.
Every single one of them. We negotiated for them as a group and got a deal, a five-year plan for them. So for the next 5 years, they're locked into a contract. Again, I'm gonna go back to the caution because I know we just turned it on last night at 5 p.m. We started sharing that. They went through the company of I am responding. We turned on the part on our CAD to notify Lakeview of the calls. I think there was 4 or 5 so far that went through because I checked this morning. And the CAD for that part of sending to I am responding has limitations. And just so everybody's on the same page. The information that can only be shared in our CAD, the older CAD we have, is the address of the incident, the cross streets, the type of call, and of course what the time is of the incident that it was pushed to them. So there definitely would have to be additional, that phone call, additional information would have to be shared. There is no narrative that can go out. That's not an option our CAD to check box and send out.
That's with your CAD.
With our CAD is very limited at the information that we can push out.
And that's, okay, and again, help me connect the dots here. Is that your CAD is connected to I am responding, or that's something?
It's a third-party vendor, but our CAD systems, like I'm sure they can all send through various apps or software devices. You can push information out. That's one of the things we've started doing about 3-4 years ago, was sending I am responding information out to a few agencies, and it's grown to all of them now. They've seen the benefit for it. So they get the minimum information. Again, they're held hostage by the cell phone. If it can get hung up, just like you send a text to each other, it could take several minutes to get to one another. But they can also go in and add additional information. There's all kinds of other, what do we want to call them, features that are in the I am responding that they can use internally to communicate back and forth. But for us, it's a good way to give them the information. They can see that. They can share agency to agency information as well.
So what do you see, Terry, as the future then for St. Croix County? You're gonna upgrade to a CAD system. Does the future still have pagers involved?
For today, I'm going to say yes, because I have, the larger population over here that have full-time crews that are on. I get to the other side and I have some agencies that are still of the volunteer era, where they're at work responding, leaving work to go, or they're at home sleeping, working another shift.
So all of them are gonna be using pagers, or just?
As of right now,
I'm talking about if you get your CAD system, when you get your CAD system that you want, is everybody still gonna be on a pager?
I'm going to say yes.
Even though they have access to a CAD system that you can
Wow.
communicate with.
Like an I am responding, you're saying?
No, I'm saying like you can be CAD to CAD then.
Like a line?
No, if it was a CAD to CAD where we could alleviate that, and there's some way to make sure, for a line, if there's a confirmed part, then I know they got it, I'm good with that, yes.
So,
Yeah,
and that's my-
if you're talking that way of doing it,
Yeah.
if I'm 100%, Alina got it, they received it, they're notifying Lakeview, I'm okay with that, yes.
Okay, but I guess it's not a question whether you're okay with it, it's, so, I'm thinking, what I'm hearing is that Alina is using a system that's more sophisticated right now than St. Croix County,
Correct.
and that St. Croix County is hoping to, wanting to, planning to upgrade to a system that would get them close to, if not state-of-the-art.
Correct, yeah, we'll be upgrading the CAD to the most current technology.
So, in an ideal world, it would communicate with other CAD systems.
Correct.
And if that were to happen in a year, year and a half, 2 years, whatever, do you still see pagers in your universe for this type of thing?
If the current situation was still the same, I could live with that, yes. I think we'd be able to do it that fashion. If we can share information to other counties via
Isn't
the
that more
CAD,
efficient than using pagers?
depends upon how you look at it. I mean, you'd share the information directly, they would have that, Alina would have that same information, what you enter and push to them. So at that time, yes, it would be identical to what you have. I would still like to have that communication like we have now with them when they're going in or out, to have that additional time to communicate with them for safety purposes for their staff and our staff.
We have agreed to that, we'll continue doing that.
And I think, so the pager system too, just another example, in Minnesota and Ramsey County, there's a variety of things. They are on the same CAD that Alina is on, but there still are many agencies that still use pagers. And which is interesting because there's some that use what we call station alerting, where it sends, it sounds an alarm, turns on lights, flashes an address on a sign in the fire station for those full-time crews that are based out of the fire station. There's others that have full-time crews based out of a fire station that still carry the pagers, and they don't have all the alerting in the station. So the CAD is one part of it, but it's also the agency. Are they still a on-call from home agency, in which case the pagers sometimes make more sense. So I think the CAD is part of it, but then there's another piece of the other end that they can receive alerts in a different way that they would have to choose to do as well.
Okay.
But being selfish and looking at our region, CAD to CAD should resolve.
For
As far as
communication
this
between St. Croix County and Alina, yes.
Right.
But as far as the other agencies within St. Croix County, they would have to decide how they want that alerting to be
Right.
transmitted.
Okay.
A question, how does Washington County manage this? I didn't hear them listed as where you have CAD to CAD.
We don't have CAD to CAD with Washington County, they call us by phone.
How many calls?
5,000.
I was gonna say,
Just out of ours, but they dispatch for North Memorial too. So they do the same thing with North Memorial, they call on the phone.
Washington County calls
They're
North.
equal, maybe 4,000 calls.
Yeah, best guess is about 5,000.
Stillwater, same thing, being part of Washington County.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So would you say that that is a similar process or the same process
Yes.
that we
Now that we're
kind of
through
went
with-
through?
Yep.
Okay.
Which is, anybody that we don't have a CAD to CAD with, that is our process.
But do they have plans to change, to update?
Washington County, I'm not sure of their status.
Yeah, they are on this, they just recently upgraded, but there's some things connecting the two CADs where the codes have to be the same on both ends that I was told. You probably know
That's
more
Ramsey
about that
County.
too, okay. So yeah. It's potentially there, but I think financially right now, Washington County doesn't have any imminent plans to integrate that.
I've got an update.
There you go.
Sorry. I talked to Darlene Panconi, is the manager of the dispatch center at Washington County. Her and I had a meeting last week, unrelated to any of this, but I asked her about the CAD to CAD push capabilities there. And Darlene's been in the business a long time, came from Hennepin County prior to Washington County. And she said, we would love to have CAD to CAD push technology. It's coming. And they have TriTech too as their CAD system. And she said they're currently working with TriTech on some other projects that they're doing in the county. TriTech told her within 2 years, anybody that's on a TriTech, it's pretty much going to be standard practice that CAD to CAD technology is a must and needs to happen. So she said we're going to wait the 2 years and do what we're doing today. But again, there's throughout the metro, most primary PSAPs are calling on the phone to get the data to the secondary dispatch center. Again, the technology we're talking about with the I am responding is that stopgap. It's a solution that we feel very strongly with. I talked to the company for a long time yesterday. They didn't agree with they wouldn't come out and say it's not really a primary dispatch. It truly isn't, because it's not a primary PSAP, but it's like any technology. Technology can fail. So that's the way he stated it. But your paging systems can fail. You can have a tower that goes down and certain areas of your county aren't going to get paged. Their pagers won't trip. So there can be a failure in any system that you have. And what we're trying to do here is come up with a process. We don't want the delay either. We want to get there as quick as we can. Patient outcomes that's what we're in the business for. So we're trying to look at what technology is available out there that can work for the county, can get it to our dispatch center so we can continue to deliver the high level of care through our dispatch center, and they can continue to track all of our trucks, all of our resources, all the time. And if we exclude them out of the process, our system we're going to fail. We're not going to be able to be as efficient as we are today because of all that technology.
So,
So I would say also in the CAD to CAD, because Terry spoke a little bit to the CAD to CAD and a failure if that happens and things. When we have a CAD to CAD with any of other primary dispatch centers right now, it's called a heartbeat. So if a CAD to CAD connection goes down, it is an automatic warning that comes to our CAD to say there's a call coming that you have not received, and it automatically goes to our IS department too to let them know that there's a failure. We both get it, and then the primary gets the notification so they know they have to call us by phone. So otherwise, we've never had a failure where it has not come through.
Okay.
so John or Bjorn, either one, can I ask you a couple questions? So here's what I'm thinking. I'm going back to my grade school mathematics. The lowest common denominator for fractions, not to do a math lesson.
Fractals.
What I would suggest is we think of the lowest common denominator in terms of technology. And what I mean by that is, I think the only way to eliminate these times of 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, I mean, I'm looking at my list, it's different, is I think Lakeview would have to use the pager system and dispatch using St. Croix County. I know you want to use Alina. I know that it's superior technology, but it's not the technology we have today. So I don't know whether it's a case where Hudson isn't ready for Lakeview or Lakeview isn't ready for Hudson, but I'm not comfortable with this lapse time going through Alina. Why don't we try to eliminate secondary dispatch and go with first dispatch like St. Croix EMS does presently? To me, that would make the most sense for the county. Eventually, if the CAD system was upgraded, then I'd have no problem going through Alina, but we're not there yet. So why couldn't why couldn't Lakeview just carry the pagers and dispatch in the exact same fashion that St. Croix County EMS does today?
So that's a bigger philosophical thing with Alina being able to manage the entire fleet. Let's say you had 2 back-to-back calls. You had an emergent transfer out of the hospital that was called directly to Alina. You had 3 victims and you needed 3 ambulances. There's just a number of situations where that system could break down. 90% of the time it might work just fine, but on some of those critical situations, there is a potential there for it to fail because it's not the way that the rest of the system is operating. And so that would become the weakest point in the system when the system gets stressed. The I am responding software would eliminate that delay. That would send out the information to Alina at exactly the same time that it's going over the air to the pagers, to the first responders, even before the law enforcement crews would be notified of the call. That's technology that's already in place. It's already in St. Croix County. It's already in Alina. We know it works. It's just a matter of deciding that that's going to be the way that we're going to notify until the phone call comes through, several minutes later. And that's going to be a much shorter phone call because all they have to do is verify that they got the call. They don't have to relay all the information again.
And I guess from where we sit at this table, you know, our responsibility is to the people of Hudson and making sure they have the quickest response times. I know that you guys have different responsibilities, which are to the greater 3 counties that you serve with ambulances and dynamic deployment. And I'm just not sure if those two are compatible right now, to be honest with you, because I would think that if you want to serve the Hudson area, you would want to conform to what is available in the Hudson area for communications at present, because if not, I think we're probably not ready for you.
Well, I'm not hearing that, Paul. I'm hearing pagers, the I am responding app, plus the call to Alina.
What I'm trying to say is, why would you use this? I would just as soon eliminate the secondary dispatch, because that's where the time is lost. So that's what I'm trying to challenge you guys to figure out is, why not just use your primary dispatch? And I know there's all kinds of reasons you're giving us, but I'm saying from a local standpoint, all of those reasons work to our disadvantage for our citizens.
We'll see that.
I'm going to disagree with
answer?
that, Paul. So in our proposal, the thing that we have going for us that no other agency could come here and provide service to the city of Hudson is our continuous backup coverage to the area. If we did what you're wanting us to do because you don't think you're ready for that technology, then we become exactly what you are today, a static deployment type operation where our incoming ambulances for other calls are based on a mutual aid agreement. So the backup goes away. We don't have that backup coverage because we don't have a system in place to manage that. So if 2 ambulances get paged out on a call and a 3rd call comes in, who are you going to talk to? Today in St. Croix County, they call the service and say, who do you want for mutual aid? So while the crews are out working on that call, they have to stop what they're doing and communicate with dispatch and say, I guess you need to start River Falls, or you need to start Baldwin to the call. In our system, again, that's all automated. If 2 ambulances go out in Hudson, our dispatch is automatically going to start another truck over here, regardless of a call or not. That truck moves over here. Again, nobody's positioned like we are and has the technology to be able to do that. So you lose that piece of it. And when you talk about the safety of the community, what more safety net do you need than the multiple resources that our dispatch has at their fingertips?
You know, John, I think what Paul is talking about ultimately is response time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How are your response times? Given the systems that you're working with, the response times in town of Hudson versus St. Croix EMS response times in the town of Hudson, your response times in Stillwater using the telephone system with communication with the county. What are your response times?
What are they today? I'm not following.
They're pretty good, aren't they?
They're very good.
I mean,
Yes.
using the
Yes.
systems that you're using,
Right.
they still seem to be better than the response times that we've seen from St. Croix EMS. Is that right?
You've seen the data. I won't say that, but
So, I mean, ultimately, the bottom line is response time.
it is. It's about response time and it's about best performance all around. You know, it's not just about response time either. It's about the safety of the crew getting there.
So, my question, and maybe it's already been answered, but I want to see what we can do to integrate our communications with St. Croix County so that it is the most efficient that we can have, given any limitations that the respective communication departments have. So, and we're hearing that St. Croix County is going to do an upgrade to get more sophisticated, as sophisticated than as Lakeview, more sophisticated than they are. So we just need, if a contract is going to work, we have to have an assurance that there is a fix in the meantime. And one that provides us with bottom line response times
Right.
that are what we're looking for. Is that right?
Right, all I'm simply trying to say is if Lakeview has an ambulance at Hudson Hospital and they hear a page, step 1 of St. Croix County's dispatch, right? And they know it's in the city of Hudson, why don't they just go? Do they have to wait until it goes to page 2, law enforcement, and then step 3, the call to Alina, and Alina is going to dispatch them? If they're in the city and they know there's a call in the city and they've got it on their pager, why wouldn't they just go?
Well, they do go, and they do, when they hear a call come in, they will notify our dispatch. If they'll ask the dispatch, have you guys received a call yet? We heard Hudson Fire going out on a call.
Okay.
And they'll, a lot of times they say, we're on the phone with them now. So, I mean, that does happen when our crews hear it and we haven't got the call yet. The first thing they usually do is call dispatch and say, heads up, they're going on a call.
Okay.
So yes, we do that. I think, again, that the issue is if we're not utilizing our dispatch center, now we're going to rely on Terry's people to manage all of our operation, but they can't possibly do that because they're not listening to our other trucks.
Yeah, and I'm not asking them to do all of their operation.
No.
What I'm trying to figure out is just using common sense. If they know there's a call in Hudson and they're stationed at Hudson Hospital, like, why wouldn't they take it? Why, if they get the page and they know we're probably the closest one, let's go en route and let's call dispatch on the way. Let's call line on the way so they can. I'm just trying to say that's the way I think you can cut down some of these times.
Yeah, again, it's hard to explain when you don't know the process that the crews have to go through to respond to that call. Looking up the address, why would you want to take that away?
I'm not taking it away. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get your trucks as fast as possible to the people in need.
Yeah.
That's my point.
So we lose that technology of the mapping to the call.
If they're in Hudson serving folks, they're going to have to get to know Hudson. So the first week, it might be a little challenging, but I think they're going to have to get to know Hudson. So I don't want them to wait for a map over Alina. I want them to go to where the call's coming from before they get the map. I would like them en route. I think that is the safest way to do it. It's this way to cut some of this time. Again, it's the lowest common denominator. I get that. It doesn't mean it's managing all the other trucks. What it means is you're responding to the people of Hudson in the quickest possible fashion possible.
And that I am responding solution would achieve that.
Okay.
So it gets the information to Alina, who can then.
Address
map
would go
it
right into the CAD.
to their CAD.
Crews would
into
be
the
dispatched
computer
at the
and-
same time that the first responders are being dispatched, and they'd have the information right there in the CAD with the
Okay.
mapping.
And the ambulance is on the way, right then.
So by the time that phone call comes to Alina, we're already 2 minutes down the road towards that
Does that
call.
make sense, Paul? They are on the road.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to push them to do. Yep.
All right, what else? So, John, you had earlier said that you had a fix that you wanted to propose. Is this what we're talking about right now?
Yeah, that's the I Am Responding app.
Okay.
Again, with that, Terry, how does that get pushed out, or when does it get pushed out in your process?
When the address is validated and the units are assigned for that incident, when we basically click assign, when there's a Lakeview unit assigned to it, it'll blast a message through the I Am Responding network, and Alina would receive it. In theory, is how that works.
So during that process, our crews would receive the call because they can get it on their phones, but our primary purpose is to allow dispatch to get it. Dispatch can then put it into their CAD system. What is your average time to dispatch?
So we have a 90% standard of 30 seconds or less, and our average is about 12 seconds.
Okay.
So in theory, when we're paging our local responders, Alina's doing the same thing at the same time as where it should be.
Are you getting response back that they received?
Yep, via radio and also their mobile. On their mobile, they push a button that they're going en route to the call, and they air it to us that they're en route to a call.
Right, but I'm wondering, does St. Croix County get the response
We
back
w-
that you guys got it? That's the question.
No, so that's the piece that, so this is the stopgap. This is the temporary
Okay.
thing until the CAD systems can speak to each other. We're still going to ask that county at some point, when they have time, to make that call
Right.
to Alina.
So
And
I
just
just-
confirm the data
Right on,
and that we're going.
We would have to still make that phone call
sure.
and provide them with the determinant code so they would know whether it's an emergent or non-emergent response for safety of all the people on the roads.
I understand that. I'm just confirming that you send out a push to Alina through this app. Do you get response back that they actually received it,
We do not.
technology-wise?
It's sent, that's all we know.
Sent, that's all you know.
Push notification.
Got it. There's no communication, okay.
That's why we still need that.
Yes, correct.
Then you fall back to the procedure you're currently using, which is the phone call.
We would still have to follow up with a phone call to provide them the full determinant code because all they know is what our incident code is, EMS seizure. The full determinant code would tell them how to have Lakeview respond, lights and siren or not.
So they still need that.
Yep, we still need that phone call, so I am responding is basically the stopgap right now, where you talk about maybe that minute and 45 seconds, 2-minute delay. That is where we're gonna be able to help capture that data coming across, and I am responding and entering the call and assigning it to Lakeview. So that's the stopgap there, so there's not that delay.
And a truck would be started emergence.
Yep.
Ideally, until we get
Ah,
information that
okay.
you can slow down, because it's not a life threat call.
Right, and then, because there's different determinants, if you have somebody with a alpha response, as you refer to as Alpha Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo. So if somebody has a broken toe, it's an alpha response, which we're gonna go routine. They're determining that, they're telling us that, and then Lakeview gets slowed down.
Do they tell that in the I am responding
No.
notice?
Nope.
It's just to get the ambulance rolling.
Yeah.
Let's get that truck on the road as quick as we can, alleviate that time delay for the information they have to get. That way, in the I am responding proposal, I guess, what we're talking about here is if the dispatch center is busy and they have other things they need to do, we at least know the ambulance is going to be en route to the call. And when they get a minute to call the dispatch center and just confirm everything, that process is done. And when I talked to the guy in New York yesterday, I asked if they had a number of failures where that has happened, and he told me they didn't have any. Now, it's their product. Maybe they weren't going to be honest about it, but, he just assured us that this system is used in every province of Canada, is used throughout the United States. Hundreds of thousands of responders are using this system. It's been proven. So again, we're not using it as a primary thing, but we want to just alleviate that time, and we think that this will do it.
Terry, you said earlier that the phone call is adding about a minute to 90 seconds lag time,
Correct.
okay? And when you're talking about Washington County, you're talking about 5,000 calls that are handled the same exact way. Are all of them using I am responding as a stopgap, or how?
So Washington County is using I am responding as well for all of their fire departments. They're using it as a means of knowing, like in Stillwater, they have the full-time crew. It's a full-time fire department, but all their backup trucks are volunteers, paid-on-call members. So their full-timers are using it. If they have another call, they can see that I've got 4 people responding to the station. So when the members are at home, they can hit on their app, I'm responding, thus the name. And then those guys in the truck actually responding to the call will say, you'll hear them every once in a while, dispatch will say, hey, we got another call. They'll say, we got 4 people responding to the station right now, be there in a minute, because it calculates their time. So in Washington County, and when Washington County's paging any of the fire departments out, that we respond with on medical situations, it's almost a simultaneous call. So our tones are going off at the same time Washington County's paging out the fire departments, almost routinely that way. A lot of times we get it beforehand. So I've been in the Washington County Dispatch Center, physically in their dispatch center, when we received a call. We get paged out for a call in Stillwater, and the dispatcher's still on the phone with the 911 caller. And Darlene said to me, how did that happen? I don't know, it's your center. Well, it's just another caller calls Alina, and the 12 seconds, they send us out. So again, we have documented cases where there is no delay in dispatching. It is a process, and we're confident that I Am Responding will help alleviate that issue.
Anybody else? Terry, is there anything that we should have asked that we didn't ask of you or of Lakeview?
If I could be king for a day, I'd like for them to have VHF portables in their rig here in Wisconsin,
Okay.
just so we could have that full communication factor. They have VHF in their rig, they have mobile radios, but if I could have a portable, so when they're outside of the truck, we could still communicate. I know they rely on the armor system, but they'll more than likely find a spot somewhere where the armor system isn't working, or if it's a mutual aid farther into our county, away from I-94 or Highway 64, they could find an area that's not covered by that armor system that they rely on in Minnesota. I think it's just a safety for their responders as well, but it'll give them full communication with us should they get into an event. If there's further information to push to them, or if they're out of the truck and a scene dynamic changes safety-wise, that we can relay information to them, is all that I ask.
What,
Was that a Christmas gift? Because I got my present then all for you.
Question,
I can
how much
update
does
you
it
on that.
cost?
well, I was gonna ask that, but how many devices are they gonna be carrying? So with a VHF, wouldn't it, if you're wanting a VHF, couldn't we accomplish all this with just a VHF?
So again, we're on the Minnesota Armor System, which is 800 megahertz radio system. It's a statewide system. It operates way different. I'm no tech savvy guy on this, but it operates different than the VHS system, where the VHS is sending a signal to a tower. In the 800 system, it's a trunked system. So there is frequency going to a tower, but then it's trunked throughout the entire state. So on my portable, I can physically talk to someone in Duluth on my handheld portable. On the handheld VH portable, I'm lucky if I can talk to someone from here to Star Prairie. Is that it, Ken? Okay. So, but anyways, so once we switched over to that 800 system, we have the VHS system in our ambulances, and we have some of the 800s that are dual band. So it's a portable that has both VHF and 800 on that radio. It's not user friendly. It's not something that we can give our crews when they're in the heat of battle and they're responding to a call to try and switch from the 800 over to the VHF. So we made the decision here a month ago to purchase VHF radios. There's a lot of different opportunities out there, different types of radios to get, and we wanted something where, we didn't want the Cadillac version, but we wanted something that could communicate good in St. Croix County, because we got a lot of the valleys, and in different areas it's hard to communicate. So we didn't want to go with something cheap, and we found one. We didn't order those yet, did we? We hadn't decided.
You said the word.
Yeah. So we got the pricing on it. Everything's ready to go.
$68.
There you go.
For how many?
It does 8.
Okay.
So each ambulance will have that handheld radio in there. just for exactly what Terry said, we do recognize that that is an important piece of it.
So, well-
The thing that we do today that
You're king.
What we do today to alleviate that is when we're on these, typically you're using that on the larger scenes. We're not going to use it on the one or two, car accident type things, because we're there with the fire department. If dispatch is calling out there, one of those guys are going to hear it. But if we're on the larger scenes of fire standbys, we're doing that face-to-face with the incident commander. So I got the 800, I can talk to my dispatch and my crews, but face-to-face with the incident commander, she can be on the VHF system. But there are times that we have recognized that it would be nice to have a portable, so they will be in the trucks. Merry Christmas.
I
Anything
guess
else,
other
Terry?
than that, I don't think there's anything else.
Okay.
They've been continually trying to communicate more with us, that John and Matt have been, so it's improving.
Good, good. We really appreciate you being here, Terry. We'll probably be asking you to come back again, I would think, at some point, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. John, Nate, Matt, Angie, anything that we didn't ask that we should have asked?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
Is there anything but dispatch? I know we focused a lot of this time on.
Well, I
dispatch
wanted
piece of
to,
it,
I wanted
so-
to spend as much time on dispatch as we needed. I figured it would go 2 hours. What are we at, an hour and a half or so? I don't know that I'm prepared to, I'll go wherever you guys want to go for as long as you want. We've got Plan Commission coming up here in a little bit.
We have a meeting on Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Of this week.
yep.
I would move to absorb some of the stuff that we were given
Okay,
so that I can make proper questions. I don't know, that's just my perspective.
all right, and so, obviously, this is an ongoing dialogue between two parties, so what do you want to cover next? What do you guys want to cover, or what do you guys want to cover?
What do you want us to prepare for to make that meeting a little bit more valuable from our
Well, what I'd
perspective?
like to see is that from our conversation last week, was it?
Yeah,
So with some of the language changes that we had talked about, and some of the pieces, I would like to see kind of what you guys did with that, or can come
So-
back with for that.
That's a
Some of
good
the
question,
concerns that we
Paul,
had
and
raised.
I'll tee up some of this document so you can review prior to Thursday. We tried to include some of that for discussion in here, specifically on response times.
Yep.
That's the first piece with graphs, and we also included a couple graphs in the back to help better reflect what we had talked about from a math perspective, some of the performance metrics.
Okay.
Okay?
okay.
Now that we're going to confirm that Alina is going to know exactly when the page out goes, which to me has been the measurement time that we've always used here for St. Croix EMS. Will you guys be able to use that and report times against that?
Clarify, I'm not
The
understanding.
response time will start whenever I am responsible.
Whenever we receive the call, we start counting our response time. Correct.
Great, so we don't have.
That, we've been
we don't have
consistent in that.
Miscellaneous lag time it takes two different reports to figure out exactly what.
But the response time that we report is only from the time our ambulance receives the call to the time they arrive on scene.
So not the I am responding notice.
The assumption is that lag time would go essentially to zero.
Right, yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'd still have to get that data if we wanted to prove that that's the case, which could be done.
Yeah, I think that's, to me, that's kind of from the time the message is sent, that there's a need to the time it arrives that's the piece we need to work on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it's obviously, it's always a work in progress. I know for you guys it is daily.
Every day.
And I agree with you on that, Jim. We want to have a standard in place, and we want to always follow the same standard. And if the I am responding time is 15 seconds less than what our dispatch time is, we want to still go with our dispatch time as our measurement. That gives us a means of evaluating how Alina is doing on getting the call out. But I think the way that technology is, I think you're going to see that shrink down to almost nothing. Again, so, yeah, but we will still measure, just like Nate said, our time that we're dispatched. We're not going to,
My phone.
we don't,
By phone from a lineup?
no.
Okay.
So the phone piece is just a quality assurance that
Filling in the blanks on everything.
a line and receive the call. It has nothing to do, so the time, our timestamp will be when Angie's team hits the button to send our truck en route. That's what we measure today.
Based on I'm responding.
Yes.
So is IM responding in use right now?
It,
Town of
for
Hudson?
us,
Town of Hudson?
no. We just set it up yesterday,
Are you gonna have it for Town of Hudson?
yes. Well,
All right,
and
so-
as soon as I get it in, Angie gets it in their system. So we just got the information yesterday. Regardless of what you guys wanted to do, we decided to go with it to try. The price, you can't beat the price on it. So we thought we would get it. The other side of that will help us too is we don't get first responders on every call we go on in the township. And I think that's normal wherever you go. And in the system, our crews can actually, they'll be able to see if a first responder is coming to the call through that system. So we see some benefits in it besides the response time piece. But definitely the response time piece is going to help that gap.
I've got some questions here that I was actually intending to send it to you yesterday, didn't get it done. But I think the most important one for me here is we have a continuing concern in the city about all of our ambulances being gone, going to Minnesota. So one of the ways I look at this, and one of the things I used to do when I would go out and audit businesses, even competitors. And one of the things I would always do was draw a process map. What are the steps? And what are the decision points? If, then this, and I don't know whether you do that or not, but that would be something if we could work that out to show how and when our ambulances are deployed. Because you guys have given me you've made me a lot more comfortable about that than I was 6 months ago. So I'd like you to help me document that so we can say, here's the plan.
I think there's a number of ways we can do that, Jim. I think one thing we have learned, because we do process maps occasionally, and what we've discovered is we've brought more ambulances in to supplement here than we've taken back across the river. And we've been since the first of the year. So we've added more in than we've moved across to deploy in Minnesota. And we can show that we actually have, I think some of you have seen it, a map about half the size of this room that we can even walk through some scenarios with you. I don't know that we need to go that far, but we can certainly put something together that
It kind of
shows the process.
Because
Yep.
what I heard a couple meetings ago was basically our last ambulance doesn't leave until there's nothing left over there on that side, and you have to cover a call. That's the way it's going to work.
So I'm a
And we
layman
need to
like you are,
factor
Jim.
in, okay, when are we going to do that versus when are we going to do mutual aid?
Right.
So.
So the
those
piece
points.
I can communicate to you here, and we'll get this in a better format for us all to understand, but we don't wait until the last ambulance is totally out before we're putting someone in the slot that it left. Mutual aid does that. 2 ambulances go out, you don't call mutual aid until you need that next call, unless you're covering shifts. What we do is we try to shift the resource before the need is there, because we don't want a response coming from a long distance either.
Yeah.
So
That was months, I don't know how many, maybe it seems like years ago now. It was a conversation that I was having with River Falls about could we support each other better by repositioning one of our ambulances whenever we knew, if we were working that much more together. So it's a mutual aid situation, but it's a more defined and
that's
more
called
sophisticated.
dynamic deployment.
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
I think we've had that
didn't want to say
conversation
that,
before.
Well, and it's instant and automatic. That's what that's
Yeah.
utilizing the full power of the Linus
Yep.
system.
Yep.
That's the benefit.
Yeah. But to your point, that's why even beyond the coverage we can provide with our other resources, you have to have mutual aid partners that you're constantly working with.
Yeah.
Just for that reason.
The thing about process maps, it's like a picture, and people can understand that better than the, you know, easier to see than the words you tell us again and again. You've told us the story many times.
Yeah.
But sometimes we looked at it and said, okay, here's what you do, and we said, well, what do you do? Oh, now I know why you do that. And
Sure.
So it just might be helpful for us and to be able to help persuade the,
Yeah. And I think, Jim, we can distill that down to a couple scenarios because the scenarios are countless. So we'll try to come up with a couple relevant scenarios that show that. So, John, get going on that.
this makes sense?
It does, yep. Yep. And I would ask, because you guys set this up when you set up the RFP, if you're going to request information, please run those through Devin as much as we'd like to respond to you directly. This way we track all those RFIs. So, because we're doing a lot of work on this, and I think the other work we have to do as well, so we want to have a single source of that communication. So,
Okay.
please run those through Devin, and he'll communicate those to me, and we can get a response back to you as soon as possible.
All right. Anything else? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Terry, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Do we have a motion? Any discussion before we adjourn?
No.
Got a meeting on Thursday. What did
Thursday.
say,
Should we talk about
6
next
o'clock
week
or
yet?
7 o'clock? We can do that Thursday.
6
We got-
o'clock, I think.
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock.
6 Thursday, yeah.
6 o'clock Thursday.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
And we'll set up the next meetings after that, if that's okay, on Thursday. Okay. Got a motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned again. Thanks, everybody.